Welcome back to another episode of the Gym Teacher Dreams podcast. I would say we have a special guest today, Coach Nate Albaugh. You want to Coach Nate, Coach Albaugh, Coach? What do you go by?
Well, it depends on who's talking to me, right? But
Sure.
Coach followed by anything that starts with an A usually gets my attention.
Okay. It never gets bad.
Yeah. Well, kids are kids. So.
Absolutely. So the reason why I feel like it's an extra special guest is kind of twofold. You're the first guest that neither Ryan or I have really had any connection with. Like we don't know you. We don't have a friend that knows you. You're just really, this is the second reason it's a special guest. You're a guy that I follow on social media, is YouTube, now Twitter. I enjoy the content that you put out there. And, so for those reasons, you're an extra special guest.
All right. Well, happy to be that.
All right. So maybe first, start with a little introduction of yourself. And I'm going to put some parameters on it because I got a buddy, Ben. He was a guest on the show, and he went for like 40 minutes with just his introduction and his history. Maybe keep it to like 2-3 minutes.
Well, I've always been careful to have people do intros because if nobody knows you, nobody cares where you're from, right? It's like, so they don't want to know anything about you. The bottom line is I'm a teacher and a coach, and I've been doing it for about 20 years. An art teacher by trade, actually. Not sure that was the best decision as a 19-year-old, but that's the one I went with. And so art teacher by trade, and coached a little bit of everything, but mostly football and wrestling. With football, kind of once I became a head football coach, the coaching of other things, went down significantly. So that's me, a lifelong Illinois guy, born and bred, and small town Illinois, Monticello. You ever heard of it?
Well, I've
kind of coached a little bit of everywhere, though. Yeah. Okay, good. So I've coached in the Chicago suburbs and the St. Louis suburbs and everywhere in between, small schools, big schools. So, it's kind of, when I'm at small schools, I'm the only guy, I seem to be the only guy around that's been at a big school. And when I'm at a big school, I'm definitely always the only guy around that's ever been to a small school. So just kind of all over the place, Illinois guy, and a lifelong coach and teacher. So that's my story.
So I was interested because you usually just stop at small town guy. Monticello, I don't know. For me, it's kind of middle-ish, okay? Maybe tell me just, first of all, the population of Monticello or the size of your graduating class.
Yeah, Monticello's about 5,000. High school is about 500.
Okay.
And graduating with about 100 kids or so.
Sure. So I said I'm originally from Fulton, Illinois, and when I was a freshman in high school, the Fulton Steamers played the Monticello Sages in a semifinal football game, okay?
Oh, I remember it. I was an 8th grader, or maybe, and we got beat. Man, we had played Belleville Althoff the previous 2 years in the semis. Right. And, of course, they're not beatable, not by a normal small school. So this was our year to do it, and I was a ball boy on that team, and it was just – I think we lost 13-12. Maybe it was 14-13. It was right in that area. Heartbreaker. Yep. I remember it well.
I believe it was 14-13, and it was a blocked extra point kick. And if you were the ball boy, then you froze your cojones off. Because I was in the sidelines. I was bundled up. I had blankets and coats and, people side by side. We were protected. If you're a ball boy, you were out in the element.
I can imagine I was. I don't remember anything about it except crying afterwards.
Oh, no.
That we lost.
You know what, Coach? I cried too after we played Fulton, not because it was a heartbreaking game, because I was the quarterback and they smashed me in cold weather snow. So yes,
that was
here that year.
Another cold evening. That's right, a Friday night, freezing up in Savannah, Illinois. All right, so you said no one cares about your background. Well, I'm the one person. I do. Okay. You went to Wheaton College also, right? Out of high school, you go to Wheaton College?
I did.
Okay. Now, did you play football and wrestle for Wheaton, or tell me about that a little bit?
So I went and I played football and wrestled. So wrestling's a strange beast, it's pretty miserable. I don't know if either of you guys are wrestlers, but I grew up as a wrestler, and my dad was a wrestling coach, and I was pretty good. And so I kept wrestling, but every year I would swear it was my last, so my sophomore year, I swore it'd be my last if I won the state title. Well, I didn't win it, so I had to go as a junior. In the junior year, here I was in the state semifinals thinking, oh, well, at least I'll be done after this year because I'll win it this year and I'll be done. Didn't win it. Knew I had to wrestle as a senior. And so even after my senior year of high school, I swore wrestling off. And there I am in the Wheaton College cafeteria as a freshman, probably October-ish. I'm playing football. I think I'm just going to be a football player forever. And here come the captains of the wrestling team, and they sat down and they said, we heard you wrestle. And became buddies of mine. And sure enough, I was a wrestler for 4 years. And after my sophomore year of college, I'm about 5'10". So you are a miniature college football player when you are 5'10".
Sure.
And so by my junior year, I had given up football and was just wrestling. And so that was my college career at Wheaton College. But it was a great experience. Really enjoyed Wheaton College, and it's a Christian college, and not like your normal college experience, that's for sure. But it's a blessing, no doubt about it, a blessing to be there and a cool experience.
Cool. So the reason why I wanted to ask that specifically was also twofold. One, I went to Elmhurst College, so I thought maybe there was a chance we were on the field at the same time. But, probably not. Your career was shortened, my career was shortened, and, that it is what it is. But also, so I work in Sycamore, but I live closer to Aurora, and the church that I attend, there's just a ton of Wheaton College people that have infiltrated our church, so I just feel like I'm sort of adopted by Wheaton College a little bit. So I just thought that was an interesting sort of connection that we may have.
Yeah, and Wheaton College is a cool place, and as soon as you know one person from Wheaton, the tree just kind of goes out quickly. And so
it seems like that.
It's a very tight-knit community, and a special place.
Mm-hmm. So on Twitter, I've been creeping you. I'd say I follow you on social media, and Pick, all about creeping. So I realized that your Twitter background is like Piccolotti's report card in high school. You represent the 5 F's, I'm saying, okay? So faith, football, family. Well, I should have said family second. Faith, family, football, fun, and 5 F's, just like our report cards growing up. So that leads me into like these standard questions that we ask all of our guests, okay? First, if you're on a desert island, okay, one food, rest of your life, it never goes bad, it's always there when you wake up in the morning, what is that food?
It's got to be a sandwich of some sort. I'm a sandwich nut. There's a lot of favorites, but something with good bread, and you can put almost anything in between, and I love it. So it's got to be some sort of a sandwich. Man, to choose one would be hard. I'd have to, though, go back up to my days in the suburbs and give me a day in the suburbs, and I would choose wisely. Okay.
Now, sandwiches, you can diversify a little bit, I would suppose. I mean, I'm not going to put your feet to the fire and say it's got to be one kind.
Hey,
but someone recently said pizza, and you could do anything with pizza.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, hey, toasted sandwich, I'd say. Chicken, avocado, bacon. We're getting on the right track now.
And what's that good bread you're talking about?
I don't know. I can't define it. Otherwise, I would eat it every day. But some people have it and some people don't.
Pick, do you got a favorite kind of bread?
Once again, pretty much all of it, but I kind of like Italian myself when I do go to Subway or Jimmy John's.
Sure. The reason why I asked the follow-up question is like, I don't get this often. I usually get the cheapest white bread at Aldi, but during the pandemic, when bread was tough to come by, sometimes the only thing on the shelf was like the 9 grain, and I'm a big fan of the 9 grain bread with like the little seeds in it. We just don't get it that often.
We all have our shopping habits. I've found that for sure. And you just go to the next door neighbor's house and they've got completely different selection of things. So we've got our habits, but man, a good sandwich from a good joint, I'm a fan. Okay.
You mentioned the suburbs. How about Portillo's? You down with Portillo's at all?
Portillo's for sure. I mean, it's delicious. I mean, we just got one in Champaign, and the line was wrapped around the building 2 or 3 times a year ago. But to me, Portillo's seems like the easy out. You know what I mean? Sure. So, but you can't go wrong. It's absolutely delicious.
All right. So another question we ask all of our guests: what you watching? Is there? I know you're busy with Chief Pigskin and the online clinics, which we'll get into later. But if you have downtime, what you watching?
Well, 2 things right now that we're watching. Number one is The Chosen, which is I went to Wheaton College. It's a Christian college. I'm a believer. And I am a big time critic of all Christian productions, which is too bad because my wife just loves all Christian productions. She'll watch them all, and I'm kind of a movie nut, and I get bitter. I'm like, it's not produced well enough, and I can't do it. Well, then here came this one called The Chosen. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, I was just going to say it's going to be a strange comparison, but kind of like Aldi. Christian productions weren't good for a long time, and then I think they felt the pressure and they upped their game. Aldi was the same way. I grew up on Aldi, you know, but there were some bad things at Aldi. Now I'm happy with almost everything that Aldi puts out there.
Hey, that's what I'm hearing the same thing. Well, this show, The Chosen, is it's a series, your standard Netflix style series, but it's just on an app where it's just about the chosen, and it's incredibly well made. The story of Jesus and his disciples. It's amazing, and I'm telling you, and my family's into it right now. That, and then on Netflix, it's The Last Kingdom. Which is an incredible series. Season 4 just came out, so Uhtred, son of Uhtred. I'm excited.
I can say I have watched that one, so I watched the season. It was pretty good.
That is funny.
I can't wait. We haven't started season 4 yet. We just reviewed an episode from season 3 2 nights ago, so we're getting ready to start. We can't wait.
Yeah.
All right. And then the last one. This might be the most important. So they make a movie about Coach Nate, all right? Who plays the lead role?
Goodness gracious, I wouldn't know. Somebody, I would feel bad for that person. You know, like I think that once I started doing everything, I really started coaching heavy and became a head coach. I think I just become incredibly aware of my shortcomings. So, man, I don't know. Gosh, I would hope that it would be somebody that, well, here's what I've noticed about myself, honestly. I think that I can be intense at times. I get excited easily about some things. But I'm not real witty in a social setting. I'm not real witty, and I get frustrated about that, right? So I'm just like the most average guy ever. So I can't imagine that any movie star, they'd have a hard time finding a guy average enough to play me, I think. So, and plus now that I'm bald, there are not many movie stars that are bald, so they'd have a real hard time finding a guy to play me.
I don't know.
I got a little Jason Statham or whatever, the guy was in Fast and Furious, the transporter.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's a bad dude. And I'll take that. It. He's a bad dude.
Yes, he is.
Or at least he plays bad dudes. And he's got a good, harsh look to him, at least.
That's right.
I'm a fan. I'll take it.
I feel like you copped out just a little bit. I'm going to put your feet to the fire on the part B to that question. Who plays your significant other? Who's your spouse?
Oh, now my significant other, there's a lot of options because, movie star women, they're glamorous, and my wife's a beautiful woman. I would have to say Anne Hathaway. That's kind of like the best match to my wife, and good personality. So casting that would be easy. Finding a guy for my role, that'd be tough.
You did a real nice job with that, because I thought the way that you kind of danced around who played you, I wasn't sure what direction you'd go. So you did an excellent job.
That's hard to say who would play you.
I agree. It's difficult to say, and we get a variety of responses, I would say, to both of them, really. But yeah, I think it's easier for other people to say who would play you, pick for you.
True. Very true.
So the way that I sort of got connected to you originally was on the internet, football stuff and Film Fridays. Now, this very, very honestly, and I don't know if you've copyrighted this or not, but I've told Pick's more of a basketball guy. Now, he's a great football mind, also an offensive mind, but basketball is your number one. Would you agree with that, Ryan?
Yes, sir.
And again, I'm pointing up because on my screen he's on top of me, but whatever. Yeah, dang it. Another one of those. This is another. I told you we're two knuckleheads, and things come out of my mouth, and I didn't think it through fully. That sounded way worse than it should have. So Film Fridays, this is something I'd love Pick to do. Where did the idea come from? And maybe just talk a little bit about, your experience getting into it, your experience going through it. Because also I think you sort of put yourself out there. You broke down your own game films. For anybody that doesn't know what Film Friday is you broke it down like you were doing it with your kids and your coaching staff, and you weren't shy about maybe saying tendencies and favorite plays and things like that, and other coaches could pick up on that. So just start at the beginning, give us a little bit about Film Fridays.
Well, I've been creating content since about 2010. I decided to start Chief Pigskin, which I'm wearing my Chief Pigskin thing today. That was not intentional. I love this thing, and I happen to put it on today.
It was intentional. It's okay.
I did create a different video this morning, so it might have been intentional for that. Created a Chief Pigskin video this morning. So I just was convinced that content could be cheaper to make, because I got my first head job and I bought a bunch of videos from Championship Productions.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was like 28, and my wife and I had little kids, and $120 at the time was a lot of money for us, and was not an easy purchase. And I got these 3 videos, and there was not a lot of content in them. And then I was done. And I did learn from one of the DVDs a couple things I could use. But I thought, this is crazy. I got to do something that we can produce more. So I started Chief Pigskin. And what it was and has become keeps doing this. I don't know. So we've got a thing now that I think is very good. And we finally took me 12 years, 11 years to land on something that is workable and doable and kind of can support itself, can sustain itself. But at the time, I was just always looking to create content. I'd started on YouTube, and I can't remember. I had seen somebody for the first time on YouTube that had what they were looking at, and then their own selves up in the corner, right? And so, when you think in the world of internet too, so YouTube was born somewhere in around 2007, right? So all the things that are common now, 5 years ago, even, and 15 and 14, like, these were new concepts, right? And so it all sounds and feels so old now. But at the time, even just like having somebody there with what you could see here was a little bit new. And I've just, I'm a film junkie. I love it. My kids, when I would watch film and break it down with the kids on Saturday mornings, they were always saying how much they enjoyed that, and how they're like, how do you come up with these analogies so fast? Or my other coaches were saying they enjoyed it. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to start something. We had a great season, so that's easy to do. It's easy to evaluate yourself when you keep beating everybody. I didn't feel like I was taking too big of a leap, right? I was like, we're pretty decent. And so I just made one. When I started, because I was following a few YouTubers, I thought, I have to finish, right? I'm going to go every Friday, and I'm not missing for this whole off season. I did like 33 straight Fridays, which is a lot of Fridays in a row, and produced this thing and kicked it out. And just tried to have fun with it, just watching and being honest about what I saw and what excited me. And that was the thing that kind of blew my YouTube channel up. Right now, blowing up in the coaching world is not like blowing up in the real YouTube world, right? Which might be 1 million subscribers, but blowing up in the coaching world is thousands of subscribers, 5,000, 6,000 subscribers. And that's what Film Friday did. And when I was done with it, within a couple months, I repeatedly kept getting reached out to, guys going, dude, you have to do more Film Fridays. And I've tried giving it up a couple times, just assuming people are sick of hearing it, and kind of getting sick of listening to myself. And, it makes you feel funny when you really put yourself out there, right? You start feeling odd, and you evaluate yourself. And people, no matter how many times I stop, people are like, no, keep going, keep bringing it back. And so finally, season 4 just launched last Friday. For season 4, episode 1, and now we're on season 4 of Film Friday. Guys, I don't know how many guys, but there's a handful of guys out there that really enjoy it. So I try to be humble about the fact that, I don't know that much. I know what I know, but I also want it to be interesting. So I don't want to be, it's this funny balance. You want to be honest about what's good, what's bad, what think people are doing well, but you're also, I take no pride in being a jerk online. So I don't want to, it's funny. It's kind of a funny thing, but I know I enjoy the heck out of it. It keeps my mind sharp, I think. I've noticed at times that I feel like I'm slowing down. Like, for example, I waited for my son to get old enough to play video games against me. And it lasted about 6 months. And then 6 months later, I couldn't beat him. And now he's 16. And I can't even, I mean, it's not even fun. I mean, he's so much better than me. It's literally not even fun. So
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on? Why is my brain so much slower than his? And I've just noticed, I think you have to continue to speak. You have to speak out loud. You have to speak under pressure to give yourself a chance to stay sharp, right? Because let's face it, being sharp and staying sharp is handy in the classroom. It's handy on a coaching field and on a court, wherever you are, really comes in handy. So I really have enjoyed making stuff, and I just kind of continue to produce because it's almost like a way of life now. I feel very good when I'm producing, and I don't feel very good when I'm not producing.
Okay. And that's an interesting thing. I think Pitt can jump in here about doing things that make you happy. You know, if you're always trying to please others, like it sounds like you have that balance thing going on. You kind of have to be yourself and take care of yourself. And it's something I want to get in a little bit later. But this might be an opportunity to jump in about just keeping yourself happy and healthy.
Yeah, for us to get started, once again, Ray and I taught together for 10, whatever, 10, 14 years. And, so we had good banter. We are very similar likes and dislikes. And so I was going through a rough patch, and I'm like, I need to try to keep my mind busy. The gym teacher dreams, we've always talked about being on YouTube, being well known, or just finding something that, because we like to make people laugh. So, so we started it. And right now, our platform is really large. We have diverse followers, from, the elementary teachers that I teach with, to coaches, to young, not teenage, but young adults, who are coming out there. So we're sport lovers, but the same thing, we spend a lot of time on, media, movies and TV shows. So we try to balance it. Now lately we've kind of have an NBA panel where we've gotten guys together, and we had a big tournament that we discussed, and we've done a couple of marker board talks with another basketball coach. So, I guess for you said you've kind of, fit into that football, someone who's done it like that for a while. Our platform is large. Is there anything you could give any, I guess, Hanson Ideas that can help us out as we, just want to put out good content and entertain people for 30 minutes a day?
Well, I think that the number one thing in any of it is staying consistent and continuing to produce. And these things take time. They take time. When you look at my YouTube channel, my personal one, which I stopped producing on, it's been around for almost 10 years now. And so I think a lot of people are really anxious to start something and just let it, right? That growth, it's just going to happen. And you just have to stay consistent. So the number one thing I would say is stay consistent. And that leads into the number two thing, which is track and celebrate all growth. So I have a chart in my office that shows the number of followers or subscribers in all these different platforms, right? And so I look back, and it's got the date and then those numbers. And you feel sometimes like growth is slow because, the reality is growth is slow unless you're famous, or reality is we're not famous. So you look back and you just celebrate those things. Wow, I'm at 488, and 3 months ago I was at 288, right? And those are the things that you need to have to keep yourself motivated, because again, if you stay consistent, then growth comes. I guess another thing I would say is to always be genuine. I just really don't like, if there's nothing in what you're creating that kind of like gets you fired up to talk about it a little bit, then you can only make it so good, because people are so good, and these are little analogies, but how the variations as an art teacher, the variations in people's eyes, right? Overall, all three of our eyes, they're all three eyes, and you could draw them by themselves. They're all eyes, right? But what is it about my eyes that make me look like me, and Ryan look like Ryan, right? And Ray look like Ray? The variations are this big. The human eye, the ability to pick up variations is ridiculous. And the human eye and the human intuition can pick up anything that's not genuine like that. And so as soon as you're talking about something you're not genuine about, or excited about, or you don't really enjoy, you're trying to push in the wrong direction, right? Or honestly, I think you'd be better off not even making that video or that, whatever it is. You're better off to not put something out that day if it's not something that you feel good about, because again, humans are just too perceptive. So I think those are some tips that I would have. And then just trying not to spread yourself too thin. And so I had done that in the beginning, right? It's like, I'm trying to, okay, I got to have YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and this and that and that. And I just thought, you know what? I can't do all that. So I threw all marketing things aside. I was paying for marketing in some ways, in some way. And I just said, I threw it all aside and only focused on Twitter. And now here we are X years later, depending on how you look at it, right? The number of years it's been since I decided to focus on YouTube, but somewhere on Twitter as my only source of marketing. I'm about 2 years later. And now 2 years later, I've started to get into Instagram, and I've started to get really into, and number 2 was my email list, right? So I went Twitter, number 1, number 2 started growing an email list, but I mean, you're talking a year apart from each other. So I guess maybe that's something that you might be able to use as well, is that you can't do all 7, 8 platforms at once. Just pick one, so you can be really good at it. And then when you got a good handle on it, you can start thinking about your second.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we really focused on a podcast, and it's been just over a year. No, I guess not. I guess it'd be a year in August.
Right.
But we've started the YouTube, kind of thing, and you're right. I mean, right now, I'm putting stuff on a blog, and I am trying to get everything out there just for entertainment, or getting our brand out there as we continue to once again make, like you taught, good content for a variety of people.
Mm-hmm. It is a lot. It can be a lot, especially when you're trying, you got a full-time job, and this COVID thing has given us, it's a window of opportunity for us educators to use the time and use it wisely. So yeah, I'm trying to get as much done as I can in this window. But also I'm trying to be aware of, I can't build anything that I can't sustain when I go back to school. And so I have to be careful of that, because if you do build something you can't sustain when you go back to school, it's going to do a couple things. Number one, your brand, as your brand changes, because life has changed, people see that as a little bit less consistent. And number two, you'll drive yourself nuts because you feel some sort of anxiety over the fact that I can't keep up with this. So you have to be aware of those things.
Okay. Not to change gears, but one direction I thought this might go, what really pushed us to do the podcast were really some setbacks, okay? And this, again, is a strange tie-in, but I was going to kind of put your feet to the fire about the Jacksonville game in 2015. You won 80-40 or something like that, and at face value, it looks like maybe you ran them up. So I was any history, but then I sort of did the research circumstances. The field conditions, you were able to get the perimeter a lot on them. They were playing fast, you were playing fast, so that all went out the window. But what you talked about after that is it was the first playoff victory at the school since like '82, and just the almost relief that you felt because these expectations were building up, and frustrations and anxiety, and you mentioned maybe self-doubt too. Those are maybe some of the things that kind of snowballed and kind of pushed us to start this stuff. So, I mean, do you want to talk just as a person or a coach about handling some of those things, the expectations, anxiety, all of that stuff?
Well, sure. Anxiety wasn't really something I even knew I was dealing with until a year ago. But
okay.
As a coach, I think as an educator, whatever you do, as you get older, I think you just kind of start to, the pressure's on. I'm getting less and less time to achieve some of the things I wanted to achieve, and it keeps, and you feel that, right? Like Peter Pan and the ticking alligator. I mean, you feel it, you really do. So as a coach here, I was in a situation where it's like, okay, you've been working X years to get to this point, to be a head coach, to be in the whatever final, right? And to be really good, and you get all that. So there's no doubt that as you start to get good, no matter what you do as a coach, but when you start to get good and you start to put pressure on yourself and other people have expectations for you, all those things can be difficult. But I do think that it's important to just always, all you can do, you cannot please people. So all you can do is say, hey, I'm going to get X done. I'm going to get X done, and that's my goal, and I'm going to go get it. And I just can't worry about other people. You know, when I got to Central, everybody was, so many people were mad that we were going to run the wing tee because it couldn't work at a big school, and I was clueless. So now we start scoring big points, and yeah, we want to score big points, right? I mean, I've been on the losing end. I've had my butt kicked a lot. And when you're winning, you go win, and you don't apologize for it. You go win, because the day will come when it's your turn to lose again. It just will. And so you take a game like Jacksonville. That game was so high scoring, they could have scored at any moment. So honestly, we were running from them until the end of the third quarter. When I look up, and the score at the end of the third quarter finally was something like 70 to like 32 or 40, right? And you're like doing the how much are we ahead by? Finally, we get up by 40, and we're in our heads going, 40, we got this, right? And now it's running clock. And by the fourth quarter, we're going, my offensive coordinator would call play in the headset, and I'm going, no, we cannot call that. We'll score right now. And we can't score. We can't score. So we're trying to run like the most simple things we can to not score, because I had some extraordinary talent. And so that, things like that. But no, man, we didn't worry about it all. And I know that the following week we went to Eisenhower, and we were in a war with Eisenhower, 28-28 at half. And as we're walking back, their crowd was next to us taunting us that we weren't going to score 80 that day. And and I realized, you didn't think about it till that time, but you realize, like, people were like, 80 points, it was a big number. It really was. And so, you just try to enjoy it, because, can't imagine I'll ever be on a team that scores 80 again. But I think we only ran 80 because we were running for our lives.
Sure. So one thing I wanted to get into, and we're getting up towards, the clock a little bit, is you did like school visits. Like, one thing that I really love that you did when I first sort of caught on to your YouTube channel was the online college tours. Like, you went to Elmhurst College, my alma mater, you went to Illinois College, and I thought that was brilliant. But then you didn't do a lot of them. You want to talk just a little bit about maybe why you stopped doing it? If you were interested with Chief Pigskin, I can't say that for some reason. Is that a branch you might go to? I mean, think about where we're at right now. High school kids can't go on campus visits right now. That would have been, potentially, if the timing was right, a great opportunity for you. So maybe talk about, again, how you got into it, why it sort of stopped, and maybe what the future holds for that.
Yeah, well, I started because, again, I was trying to find content, and I didn't know how long I could sustain it. So I think in the last 10 years, I've visited almost 300 schools nationwide. So I've been as far west as California. I went to Milpitas High School in near San Francisco. So all the way to South Carolina and Fort Myers, Florida. I've been out to Maryland last spring. So I've been everywhere. I really love doing it. The only reason I don't do more is because I can only finance so many. Sure. I'm an educator, and at the end of the day, no one else is paying for my gas. I'm paying for my gas. So I've had to balance, okay, how much can I produce? Because it's fun to produce. Yet this is a niche. I don't think football coaches can get to the subscriber numbers on YouTube that help you sustain things, right? So you've got to get into the hundreds of thousands of subscribers to bring in enough money to sustain travel. I don't think that's possible. So it's just always been this balance of how do I build this? What does need to go behind a paywall? What doesn't? So that I can just keep doing it at the very least. So for the first 7 years, it was all financed by me. The last 2 years or so, it has been financed by Chief. I got it to the point where it could fund itself. Right. Okay. And so I've made little to no, every month I've worked like crazy on this. I've even taken up to 4 years off teaching to pursue it. I'm just now to the point where I make a couple $100 a month off of it. But again, this is an 11-year process where I was paying for it. Then I could break even. Now I'm starting to just barely make a little bit of headway. So it's just been this delicate balance but I've never given up on the fact that I really believe if I do it well and I don't overcharge and I create incredible content better than anybody else's, I'm an art teacher. So I'm like, there's not a lot of coaches that are artist type guys, aesthetic type guys. And so I'm thinking if I can do this well, do it genuinely and produce it at a price that is absolutely fair, fair to them, the consumer, fair to me. And I pay all my coaches that speak on Chief Pigskin. I think that I can eventually build something that would have been worth building. But I know that it's going to be, I've always looked at it as like a 20-year plan. It's never been hey, this is my side hustle. I think people have looked at it like that, like, oh, Chief Pigskin is your side hustle. And I just kind of think, no, Chief Pigskin is my retirement plan.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Mm-hmm. So I specifically was interested in the college tours, those 300 schools you visited and however many states. They were not, those are high schools. How many colleges have you visited? How many like campus online virtual tours have you put out there? Because like I said, I saw the Elmhurst one, I saw the Illinois College one. Were there others that I missed?
Well, I see on a timer we're about to run out of time, but
right.
I probably have done, I don't know how many, 10 to 20 maybe are colleges. Wow. I've really focused on high schools, but there's quite a few of them that are colleges. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mentioned in emails that we were sending back and forth, we'd love to have you back on. We are quarantined, so Pick and I can't get together. You can see I don't have a whiteboard behind me. I'm in the basement. That's why it's kind of like dingy looking, which I hate. You're talking about being genuine and producing things well. All of a sudden I feel shame, but that's okay. I'll deal with it, some counseling or something. But we'd love to have you back to talk X's and O's and get a little bit deeper. But with the last maybe 30 seconds of the last minute you have, be selfish here. You want to talk about some things you have going on? I'm going to watch your video online tonight. If you want to plug that or anything else that you have going on, shoot.
Yeah, you can find us almost every platform on Chief Pigskin. Just look us up, Chief Pigskin. That's a nod to the Illini Chief, honestly. So as an Illinois boy. So look us up anywhere. We got stuff on YouTube almost every day of the week. And we've got our site for serious coaches at clinic.chiefpigskin.com.
All right. Well, thank you again, Coach Albaugh, for being on. This has been another episode of the Gym Teacher Dreams podcast. We always say, subscribe to us and tell a friend. So, Coach, if you don't mind, tell a friend. And if they're interested, we'll get them on. All right.
Excellent. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank